It's okay.
Okay. Before we begin, there is a disclaimer. I must inform you that this is an educational project. I am not a professional, therefore I cannot provide advice. I will be asking a series of personal questions. If at any moment you do not feel comfortable answering a question, we can skip and move on to the next topic. I will do everything I can to make sure your identity remains confidential. I will not reveal personal information such as your name, profession, or anything that might reveal your identity. This recording will be viewed by my professor and possibly my classmates. Okay. So let me start off by asking your opinion or your perspective on the aging process, and if it's been a positive or a negative.
That is a really good question. It's been both positive and negative. I feel like as I've gotten older, I've become a lot more comfortable with myself. When I was younger, I had a lot of insecurities, but I've definitely gotten more comfortable with who I am and with choices that I've made, and have been less concerned with what people think. And then on the other hand, there's sort of this stigma that's attached to aging, especially as a woman. There's always sort of this thing about how you look, your appearance, and your age. Just when people hear, oh, you're 45. Sometimes they're surprised, and other times they're like, wow, that's old. And so, in that sense, it's been sort of a negative, is that people tend to think that being that age is not such a great thing, that there's more of a preference to being younger. So good and bad. Good and bad.
How are you different physically from your early adulthood?
I'm not in as good a shape as I used to be. I used to exercise a lot when I was younger. I don't exercise as much anymore, but that probably has more to do with the fact that I work a lot longer hours, and my metabolism has slowed down. But physically, when I was younger, I was in much better shape, healthier, more slender than I am now. So, yeah.
Your energy, have you noticed that if your energy level has come down?
For sure. My energy is not as high as it used to be. I used to have far more energy to do things. I mean, I could go and go and go all day, and now I find most days at the end of the day after work, I feel like I just want to go home and relax, put my feet up, and have a hot cup of tea, and chamomile tea preferably, just to relax and unwind. Yeah, but when I was earlier, I for sure had a lot more energy.
Going back to physical changes, and you mentioned appearance. What in your appearance do you feel has had a drastic change?
My face, there's a lot more wrinkles. Physically, I'm not as slender as I used to be. I used to be a lot more slender. My neck, I noticed my neck. Also, sun damage that I acquired when I was younger is showing up a lot more now on my skin. Those things are much more prominent. I'm noticing age spots on my hands and things like that. So, yeah, it's been interesting to see it manifest itself, because when I was younger, I remember thinking, that's never going to be me, but now here I am, and I'm seeing all these things that I used to see in people that were older. So, yeah.
Changes in your vision. Have you noticed any changes in your vision?
Yes. Once I reached 40, it was almost like the day of my 40th birthday. My vision definitely started to decline. And I don't wear glasses yet, but I do notice that I'm holding things further away to focus or to see them better. Oftentimes my vision is a little bit blurry, not quite as clear. So that definitely has been an issue.
Have you noticed any changes with your hearing?
No, not as much with my hearing. No, my hearing's still pretty good.
Hair. Do you have any loss of hair? Any gray hair? Any changes?
I still have a pretty good full head of hair, but when I look back at pictures of me in my 20s, I noticed that it was much fuller. And it's funny because I don't realize it right now, like if I were to look in the mirror, I don't realize it, but when I look at pictures of myself in my 20s, my hair was a lot fuller than it is now. So I have noticed it in that sense, yeah.
Your dental, anything different, you know, as far as your teeth?
No, no, I feel like my teeth are still pretty good. Maybe not quite as white as they used to be, but no, I feel like my teeth, well, and that's probably because I'm drinking a lot more coffee in my older age. But I feel like my teeth are still very healthy.
And back to the to your energy. I know you mentioned your energy has declined.
Yeah.
Has your energy also declined, you know, as far as your sexual libido, your, you know, sexual relationships?
Yes. It's pretty much absent. Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
Your reaction time, as far as, you know, having physically react to anything, do you feel that you have a slow reaction time? You it's about the same?
I think that my reaction time is still pretty much the same. Yeah, I notice, you know, depending on the situation, if it's an issue, for example, with children, I'm very quick to react to things with children. For example, if I see a child's about to get hurt, or if a child's about to hurt themselves, I react very quickly, and I've always been that way, and that hasn't changed at all. Driving is the same way. I have a very quick response to driving situations. Yeah, so that in that sense, that's good. So my reaction time is still the same.
Moving into a cognitive area, how, has your memory changed?
Yes, yes, definitely. I feel in a lot of ways that I have become more forgetful. And I often attribute that to how busy I am. I have so many things that I have to keep track of during the day that oftentimes I'll forget things. I also, my mother passed away from complications due to Alzheimer's disease. And so my sister's about 5 years older than I am, and we both are noticing a change in our memory. And again, you know, she's also very busy and I'm very busy, so we're not sure if it has to do with age or just the fact that we have so much to keep track of in a day that there's just not enough space up there to remember everything. But I definitely have noticed that I've become more forgetful.
Your learning abilities, do you think your memory has impacted your learning ability or any other cognitive factors that might, or has your learning ability changed?
You know, I think it has, but in a sense it's changed for the better because I'm more interested in learning than I was when I was younger. When I was younger, I felt that learning was something that I had to do to get to where I wanted to be. And now I feel like I'm more interested in things. Since I've gotten older, I'm more interested in learning. And therefore, I feel like when it comes to learning different things, different concepts, I have more of an interest, and therefore I tend to retain information that way better, only because I'm more interested. So I think that's been a positive for me getting older.
Problem solving? Your problem solving skills, have they, I imagine they've improved or have they declined?
Depending on the situation, I think for the most part, overall, they've improved just due to experience. That's definitely been a positive thing for me getting older. With all of the experiences that I've had, problem solving has been a really great thing for me. And I do, again, attribute that to experience. For sure, I'm able to look at situations differently and solve things better. And I think that with all that I have experienced, I feel like that I have more choices, or I have like a broader spectrum of things to choose from when it comes to solving problems.
Your future planning, has, you know, your thoughts on future planning changed from when you were, you know, 10 years younger, you know, and
For
how
sure.
has it changed?
For sure. I think about my finances a lot more. When I was younger, it wasn't in the forefront of my mind. So, definitely when it comes to planning for the future, I'm thinking a lot more about my retirement, saving up, what that's going to look like for me. Yeah, yeah, it's definitely become a more important aspect of my life since I've gotten older.
And still in the same area of future planning, have you given any thought, or do you think of, late future? Once you stop working. Um,
I do. I think about it in a financial sense. I don't think about it in an aging sense. And that might be just because I don't want to think of myself like that. But I do, financially, I think about wanting to be secure. I think about wanting to be set in terms of having money coming in once I stop working. But in terms of physically and mentally, I don't think about that so much. Yeah.
your attention span, has your attention span changed?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I think I have a better attention span than I did when I was younger. I was a lot more distracted when I was younger by things. I was always, the social one among my friends, and I was very easily distracted. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten more focused. Definitely, I think that is a plus side to aging. At least for me, it has been. Um, yeah,
Do you have any children?
I don't.
No,
I have
no
no
children.
children. No,
Are you married?
I'm not.
Okay.
No.
Your so we're gonna move over to social emotional.
Okay.
Your relationships with your family, have they changed in the last 10 years?
In the last year,
10 years, sorry.
in the last 10 years, definitely, they've gotten stronger. I think in the last 10 years, my siblings and I were still, quarreling like we did when we were kids, but with the loss of certain family members, it's brought us closer together, and we've realized the value of being together, and our family as a unit. So yeah, we've definitely gotten closer as we've gotten older.
How many siblings do you have?
I have an oldest sister and an older brother. Well, I'm the youngest. My brother's in the middle, and my sister's the oldest.
How's your individual relationships with them?
They're good. They're very good. They're stronger than they've ever been. They both live pretty far away, so we try to talk on the phone as much as possible. And I visit them at least twice a year, and they come down here at least once a year. So, yeah.
I know you mentioned your mother passed away. Is your dad still there?
Yes.
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 How's your relationship with your dad?
Stronger than ever. Stronger than ever. Yeah. Yeah. I've really grown closer to him as I've gotten older, especially being the only parent. And I have valued our relationship more than ever as I've gotten older. Yeah.
Stress. Stress in the last 10 years, how's it changed?
Yes, it's increased. It's definitely increased.
Your approach towards it, has it changed?
It has. It has. I didn't used to know how to deal with my stress, and now I have, turned toward going home and just relaxing and decompressing and taking more time for myself. When I have the time, I like to exercise. When I have the time, drinking chamomile tea, things like that. I've learned as I've gotten older to really take more time for myself. Every morning when I get up like an hour earlier, just so that I can have time to myself to, eat my breakfast, check my email, just relax, maybe watch the news in the morning. I've learned to take more time out for myself, and I didn't used to do that when I was younger.
Your happiness, do you think it's changed in the last few years?
Yeah, I would say that it has. I would say that it has. I don't find my life as joyful as I used to, and that might just be because I spend so much time working. However, when I have my vacation time, I find myself very happy. And most of that has to do with the fact that I am visiting with my family. And I have a lot more free time to do the things that I enjoy. But when I'm not on vacation, when I'm working, I'm constantly thinking about work, and my mind is focused on work. And as much as I love what I do, I don't have the time to do the other things that bring me a lot more joy. So in that sense, yeah, it's changed.
Your friendships, have they changed?
They have. Again, it goes back to working. I don't have as much time to spend with my friends. However, I've formed new relationships with friends, which has been great, especially in my profession. But I think most of all, as you get older and you get more involved with your career, you don't have as much time to socialize. So in that sense, yeah, they've changed. My relationships have.
Your, as far as your love life, your personal relationships.
I'm not in a relationship. I haven't been in a relationship for many years. I came very close to getting married at one time, and it ended up not working out, mostly because I focused most of my attention on what I'm doing with my job, because I love my job so much, and my significant other didn't appreciate that so much. He wanted actually somebody that would be at home. And so as a result, no, I haven't been in a relationship for many years. Yeah.
And what you look for in relationships, has it changed?
Definitely. For me, when I was younger, it was more of a physical thing, what somebody looked like, what somebody was involved in. But for me now, it's more of character. I look more at character, honesty, integrity, drive, what people are interested in. So that has definitely, it's interesting, like, answering these questions, because it's really causing me to think about how much that has changed. Yeah, and those things weren't things that I necessarily looked at when I was younger. But being older, they've definitely taken a priority in my life. So yeah.
What you look for in friendships, has that changed?
Yes, I would say that has changed too. And mostly because my interests have changed. When I was younger, it was more about going out, going shopping, playing, having fun, and now it's more about the commonalities that I have with people. I enjoy doing things differently, and so and I think that's why my relationships have changed, because the friendships that I had before, our interests were different, and so now I find more interest in going to a movie, or even going to an opera, or seeing a play, or things like that. Yeah.
Your quantities of friendship, have the numbers changed?
They have changed. I would say my close friendships that circle has gotten smaller, but my number of acquaintances have gotten larger. When I was younger, I had a bigger group of close friends and a smaller group of acquaintances, and now it's just the opposite. So I have fewer close friends, but those close friendships have gotten stronger. But my number of acquaintances has increased for sure. Yeah.
The longevity of the relationships, have these been relationships you've been in, friendship relationships you've been in for over a decade, since you were a lot younger than that?
Yes, they've gotten, they're definitely longer. Yeah.
Your mood, your temperament, has that changed?
It has. I've gotten more patient as I've gotten older. I definitely did not have as much patience when I was younger, and especially in my profession, I've really learned to be patient. And it's something that I focus on a lot more now as I'm older. Yeah, these are great questions.
Your values,
Definitely.
how have they changed?
Definitely. Things that were not very important to me when I was younger are very important to me now. Trying to think of examples. Family is much more important to me now that I'm older. My finances, those things are important to me. Like the things that I actually value in my life, yeah, they have changed. I'm trying to think of how to word this. The things that were important to me when I was younger are not as important to me now. Yeah, so I feel like the things that I value now are definitely more important and more valuable than they were when I was younger. I don't think the things that I valued when I was younger are very important. I think they were more like, frivolous things, trivial things. And as I've gotten older, my values have grown more toward things like family and relationships and things like that, like with my friendships. So, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Your attitude towards life. How has it changed?
I look at life more seriously now. Well, yeah, I look at it more seriously, but at the same time, I've lightened up. When I was younger, I wasn't as serious about things when I was younger, sort of a carefree type of mentality. But I've gotten a lot more serious as I've gotten older. But at the same time, I feel like I'm enjoying life more, if that makes sense. Like because of just how I feel about things in general. I'm taking time for myself and yeah. I hope I'm making sense.
No, not yet. Your sensitivity. Do you feel you're more sensitive now than you were 10 years ago? Do you feel you're stronger now than you were 10 years ago?
I do, and I think that has a lot to do with the things that I've gone through, and with experience. As I've gotten older, the experiences that I've had have led me to learn to let things roll off my back a little bit easier, and then to not take things so personally. Yeah.
Back to with the death of your mother. How long ago did this happen? Sorry.
She passed away. It will be 3 years this coming April. Yeah.
Okay, so it hasn't been that long. I was gonna ask, did her death, sorry.
No, it's okay.
Has it made you have a certain type of future planning? Are you taking any precautions?
Oh yeah, especially with how she died. And this goes back to my relationships with my family. Like, because they've gotten so much stronger, we've talked about things, related to how she died and how a lot of this is genetic. So I've been taking more vitamins, looking at my health more seriously, eating better, trying to take walks as much as possible, each night when I get home. We've looked at things that have led to Alzheimer's, and we've taken precautions in terms of doing things that would prevent that. So yeah, I'm much more aware of my health and taking preventative measures so that if I do get older, that I'm not, that I can live a quality life. I'm not as preoccupied with how old I'll live to be as much as how healthy I'll be as I age. So yeah, definitely taking more consideration about my health due to that.
And that's how your awareness as far as your health?
Yeah.
I know you just specified on, the changes you're making as preventative, but your awareness, has it changed?
My awareness of my health.
Yes.
Um,
Or can I rephrase it?
yeah,
Is
yeah,
that,
yeah.
are you more aware with your body now and your health now than you were 10 years ago?
Oh, for sure, for sure. I feel things much more. Like I'm much more aware of things that are happening with my body. Um, you know, every little ache or pain that I feel, I almost know exactly what it's attributed to. Um, my headaches or things like that. Like I feel things much more, and I can almost specify exactly what caused it. So yeah, in that sense, I've definitely become more aware of my body and what causes things to happen in my body.
Have you gone through menopause or currently going through menopause? Or...
I believe that I'm perimenopausal right now, which is kind of funny because, again, and I always refer back to my sister because she's 5 years older than I am, and so she's almost able to tell me what I could expect at this age and at that age. But yes, I do believe I'm perimenopausal because I've started experiencing things that people have talked about. For example, hot flashes, things like that, and a little bit of forgetfulness, and my mood swings. Like I noticed that I have not so much extremes of mood swings, but different types of mood swings. Like not just going from happy and sad, but going from really, really happy to really, really sad on certain days. Yeah, so I definitely feel like I'm experiencing that, but not full menopause yet, just perimenopausal.
As far as going back to social emotional, regrets. Do you have? You don't have to mention them, but if you do have any regrets, how have you learned to deal with them from how you would have dealt with something 10 years ago?
10 years ago, I don't feel like I had any regrets. And now, I'm not even sure I regret this, but specifically one thing that comes to mind is that I never got married or had kids. And I'm not, again, I don't completely regret it, but I feel like I'm at that point now where it's not going to be a choice for me anymore because of my age. Like that may not be a feasibility. Maybe getting married, but not necessarily having children. And so I feel like I may come to regret that at some point. I'm okay with it right now because I work with children in my job, so I feel like I at least get that experience. But I feel like I may come to regret that because it's not going to be a choice for me at some point anymore. So, but other than that, I don't feel like I have any regrets. Yeah.
How much has it changed? Your desire to want to start a family, to get married. How much has it changed from 10 years ago?
I would say that 10 years ago, I wanted to have kids more than I do now. And I think part of that is just because I again, I have the opportunity to work with kids all day long, which has been really great for me. But just having started out, about 10 years ago, having, just kind of still been new to this profession, I still felt like I did want to have kids. And so in that sense, it's changed. Yeah, like it's decreased a little bit for me, I think. Yeah.
And then your desire to have a partner and just having a companion, period.
Yeah.
Has your desire changed?
It has changed. When I was younger, that was something that I always wanted. Like I always had a boyfriend. And like I said, I almost got married, And as I'm older now, I've become more comfortable with my own company and being with my friends. And so, I feel like there are times that I do want to be married and I do want to have a partner. I don't want to grow old alone. But right now I'm okay with it. I'm okay with being single, and I'm actually having fun. So I'm enjoying that. But yeah, I do feel like, that when I think about it, I don't want to grow old alone. I would like to have somebody in my life.
Has it, how much has it changed to get to know someone new and try to establish any kind of dating relationship?
It's definitely gotten harder, because as I've been single for so long now, and I've become more established in my own routine and more established as a single person and kind of set in my ways, I find when I do meet people that I'm that things that I would have overlooked when I was younger, I look at more critically now, and I think to myself, I don't want that in my life, and it's a lot easier for me to not get involved with somebody than it was when I was younger. When I was younger, I would very quickly jump into a relationship just because I didn't think about things as much. But now I do, and I'm, again, being set in my ways and having spent so much time alone and getting used to the way I do things, it's been a lot harder. It's been a lot harder to get involved with people.
The frequency to, just casual dating, or, or has that changed?
In the last 2 years, yeah, it's become pretty infrequent. Yeah. Sort of dry spell, I guess. Yeah.
What about when you were, let's say, when you were 30? Was that when you were settled, or?
When I was 30, I was in a relationship, and I was, I had almost gotten engaged. So, and I had been in a very long-term relationship at that time, and that was if we say 30, the age of 30 exactly, it was about 2 years before I started into this profession. And when I started this profession is when my relationship ended. So, yeah.
Your goals, your dreams, have they changed?
They have, yeah. Because when I was younger, I saw myself as a wife and a mother, and now I see myself as somebody who's more interested in traveling the world, learning new languages, yeah, because my interests have changed. So yeah, my goals have changed. I do, my biggest goals are to be able to travel the world, and my favorite goal that I have is to learn 2 new languages. So that's sort of something that's taken a priority for me, yeah.
And then your ability to retain more information, that contributes to the desire to?
I'm not sure if it's my ability to retain more information as much as it's just my interests have changed. And I think it's just from experiences that I've had. Like I've been able to do some more traveling since I've been single. And so as a result, my interests have changed. So I'm more interested in traveling more and experiencing more and experiencing different cultures, different languages, and things like that. Yeah, I'm not sure if it has as much to do with my memory as just what I've become interested in.
Your as far as your profession, has the love for your profession changed in the last 10 years? Your comfort with the profession?
Well, it's sort of there's different aspects to that. My love for what I do hasn't changed, because I love working with the children. I love teaching, but my love for the field of education has changed because of the politics involved. I don't feel like we have as much freedom to do what we want to do. I feel like there's, more things that are dictated to us and mandated to us in terms of how we teach and what we teach. But I feel like in terms of what I actually do and my purpose for what I do, my love is growing tremendously. I feel like it grows more and more every year. Yeah.
And your desire to want to learn new techniques,
Oh yeah.
has that grown?
Oh yeah. Oh, that grows. That never stops growing. Yeah, for sure. I'm always wanting to be able to do things better. Constantly going to trainings and professional developments and things like that. Because especially with new things coming on, I definitely want to learn to do things better. Yeah.
Relationships with your coworkers. 10 years ago, how different are they? Were they close then? Are they closer now?
They're closer now. They're definitely closer now. They're especially since this is the third school that I've worked at, and I feel like we're much more cohesive, and it's much more enjoyable to work in this profession when you're so collaborative. And I feel like when I was younger, when I was first coming into the profession, I felt sort of isolated, and I was learning things on my own. But now it's more collaborative, more cohesive, and that makes it much more enjoyable for me. So yeah, my relationships with my colleagues are very strong. Yeah.
Your tolerance, has that changed?
In terms of
Some situations that would upset you, are you more tolerant now?
I feel like I've always been tolerant. I'm not sure if that's ever really changed that much. One of the things I can say is that in terms of behavior, I've in the last couple of years, I've encountered behaviors I've never seen before. And so, which is interesting because seeing these different behaviors is sort of interesting for me, and I want to learn how to manage, and this goes into negative behaviors or behaviors that are disruptive and things like that. I feel like I want to learn more about how to better manage those behaviors. So I don't think my tolerance has changed. I think it's become more a matter of just wanting to learn more in terms of how to manage those behaviors. Yeah. So I think my tolerance has pretty much stayed the same. Yeah. I think I've always been a pretty tolerant person. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, that's okay. A chance to get a drink of water.
I think we pretty much covered everything,
Okay.
but I will ask, if, no, sorry, how has your perception of yourself changed from 10 years ago?
Wow. I feel like I'm more aware of myself. I'm more aware of how I interact with people. I feel like I'm more aware of how I might be coming across to people. And when I was younger, I think I was just I think I was a lot less aware, mostly because I just probably didn't care. But I'm definitely more aware. Yeah, I'm more aware of how I'm coming across to people. I'm more aware of myself. I'm more aware of my facial expressions, my body language, which has been good. It's been a good experience for me because I've paid attention to the fact that I might have a negative expression on my face, and I want to come across to people in a more positive light. And so in that way, I think I've just definitely become more aware of my whole way of being, definitely, as I've gotten older.
Since we're in awareness, do you feel that you are more aware of what's going on in the world now than you were 20 years ago?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Yeah, I'm much more interested in politics now, and the way that politics is impacting our society and the world around us. When I was younger, I didn't pay attention to politics at all. It wasn't an interest of mine, but yeah, I'm much more interested in what's happening around us and what it's doing to us. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. And
This was fun. And definitely more making me more aware. Yeah. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Okay.